Alright, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. There is a narrative, and I think there is word that is going around. There's a lot of rumors and speculation in terms of what is happening with Liverpool FC. Now, if we're being honest enough, so far Liverpool are having, if not their best transfer season ever. Florian Wirtz, who is about to be signed as a Liverpool player. The likes of jeremie frimpong, who was signed as a Liverpool player. Milos Kerkez, who is about to be a Liverpool player, getting that sorted out as well with the paperwork and documentation. Liverpool are having one of their best seasons transfer wise, and it is something that I think the Premier League are taking notice of in terms of transfer policy and transfer strategy. Now, I believe Liverpool, if we're going across Europe, I think they're one of the best in terms of scouting and getting money's worth. Now, that could be because of you're a Liverpool fan. You could be thinking it's probably subjective, and you're probably right. You could think that in the comments if you like, share, and subscribe, and you share your opinion. But I do believe in terms of how they go about their transfer is very, very important. If we're looking at scouting, you can, if you're a football fan, if you're a Premier League football fan, I think that Brighton Hove Albion has one of the best scouting departments across the Premier League, if not the best, in terms of getting their money's worth. They've sold Moises Caicedo for 140 million. They've sold Alex McAllister. They've also sold Ben White. Evan Ferguson is another. So they've gotten money's worth, and then just in spite of that, they can nicely scout and find another replacement just in the blink of an eye. Just like that. I think their scouting department is top tier. But in terms of going against the big dogs, they're not there yet because, of course, financially they're not able to sustain that for a long period of time. And this is where I think Liverpool transfer strategy kind of takes the fore and takes a hold of where football is going or where it should be. Liverpool has been data driven from the hiring of Michael Edwards. I think in 2012, he has been on the forefront in getting players. He's getting not also players, but also learning about where football is heading, right? If we look at the transfer policy, the first full season for Klopp, he got Sadio Mane, club legend. Gini Wijnaldum from Newcastle, club legend. He also, in the following season, got the club legend and one of the greatest scorers for Liverpool, Mohamed Salah. Then pushed on to get Virgil van Dijk and Alisson and Fabinho, and the list goes on and on. But it's based on data. But what I like, it's not only based on data, but it's also based on the eye test. So your numbers can be great, but the eye test can tell me otherwise, that if you're going to make a lasting impact on a team. So say, for example, that you're watching this video and you are a footballer professionally, and Liverpool scouts have been looking at how you play in whatever position, whether goalkeeper to striker. They've been looking at months of scouting, months of data, tracking, understanding how you play, what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, what are the opportunities for you to get better. They look at the various development or the entire play of how you play in games. And then the question that will go back will be, if he's playing like this, what is his impact for us to get better as a club, right? But it's not just the data to provide that. So let's say in the box you take at least on average 14 shots, and for them their standard is 12. They will think that's very good. But if they're saying what are your pure shots or your shots that will lead to a goal, and their standard or means the average is 8 and yours is 5, then that's an area of concern. Or it could be said that if more often than not your pros outweigh your cons, then it's a possibility that you can get better, where you can lessen your cons and strengthen your pros, right? And I think that is how Michael Edwards looks at the data and looks at football right now. Now, what Arne did this season in winning the Premier League was to make a statement in that he didn't sign anyone of significance that would impact the starting 11 or the squad that he wanted. Yes, we know about Federico Chiesa, but in terms of squad, first team player, he didn't make a transfer. I think this is the first time in Premier League history, if my memory serves me right, that a manager has made a signing but wins the Premier League with the squad that he's inherited and goes on. First, I think that is happening. So his point across all of the season was that I'm going to use the squad that Klopp has, and I'm going to show you what I can get out of them and what I can't. Yes, you got the Premier League, but how did you lose the Champions League to PSG? You weren't good enough. And if I want to rest Szoboszlai out of my squad, unfortunately for Harvey Elliott, that is able to do what Dominic Szoboszlai does. Nor do I have a suitable replacement on the forward line to do what Jota does in terms of pressing and being smart and all of that. So he uses the squad, he uses the tools that he has, and he goes on to win the Premier League. But there was a gap, a huge gap between the first team and those that are on the bench. And this is where transfer strategy comes into play, because the types of profile and players that Arne Slot is looking for has to tie in to what Liverpool are looking for a player that, in terms of culture, in terms of style of play, in terms of also the what would you call it? Kind of the play off the pitch characteristics, such as how are you with friends, how are you with teammates, what is your social life like. I think that is also important when it comes down to being professional footballers or sport athletes, that your social life is also something that comes into question as well once you're off the pitch. Those are the intangibles that are measured to know if you are good enough to be around the club, if you're good enough to be around players like Salah and Van Dijk, or if it's a different club like Saka. It doesn't matter. Are you like that? And so that is also, I think, a narrative that in terms of strategy. Now, with Arne Slot doing that, they have gone out to get the likes of Florian Wirtz. And I think in terms of what they are trying to accomplish is, and you can let me know in the comments, is we're going to make a full evolution, not revolution, an evolution on the squad that we have, so that down the line you absorb as much of the expenses as possible or the costs, because the market now will pretty much be inflated. So, for example, Florian Wirtz, there has been many questions. Is Florian Wirtz worth 116.5 million? Is he worth 150 million euros? And the truth is, not necessarily so. He isn't. But based on what the market offers, this has to be the price that Bayer Leverkusen set for such a generational talent. So if you're saying that he's a 100, maybe not. But the quality that he has, he is a long-term investment for Liverpool. 22 years old, is one of the best in the world at his position. So why not splash the cash for that so that you can recoup what you have spent? Same thing that has happened with Mohamed Salah, same thing that has happened with Coutinho, is that you spend believing that you are able to recoup on your investment, which is a ROI for business persons who are watching, return on investment. So the transfer strategy for Slot is, I need players that are going to add value to the squad. I need players that if and when a player is injured, that there isn't necessarily a steep drop off, right? This is where, like, we compare to the Manchester United with Sir Alex Ferguson, who was always having players who would slot right in, who would fit right into a starting 11. And it's as if they never missed a beat. Same thing with Manchester City, same thing with Chelsea. And I think with how Liverpool are trying to do business now, I think that is the perfect way to do that. But you have to push and make money. Now, the question will be, how are they able to do that? Liverpool is one of the best selling clubs in Europe. As of right now, there is an agreement in place that Jarell Quansah is going to buy Leverkusen for 40 million euros, around 30 to 35 million pounds. Kelleher, the backup goalkeeper, has been sold to Brentford for 18 million pounds. Trent has been sold to Real Madrid for 10 million. And of course, Darwin Núñez is on the chopping block to be sold as well. There has been conversations about Harvey Elliott also leaving, and maybe Luis Diaz going to Barcelona. So yes, they have spent over, call it near two, maybe, yeah, call it near 200 million pounds, but they've also sold over, are about to sell over 150 mil if all the outgoing transfers are supposed to be followed through. So, and then, of course, you're looking at a centre back in Mark Gay from Crystal Palace, who's also a very good defender, one of the best Premier League defenders right now, and who is also young. So, Liverpool's transfer strategy is something that needs to be talked about in terms of how they are not only attract but also how they sell, because you can buy as much players as you want like Manchester United, but if you are at a state where you can't sell those players for whatever the price may be, then that is a big issue. If you're buying a Casemiro for 60 odd million, but you can't get back at least 30, 40 million, it makes no sense to even do the deal at all. And that's the truth. So these are the things that I think Liverpool and I think Slot has been doing. And what I find even more interesting, and you can let me know, is that you haven't heard a word from Richard Hughes. You have not heard a word from Michael Edwards. You have not heard a word from Arne Slot. You haven't even heard a word from Virgil van Dijk in what Liverpool are doing in terms of transfers, because it's so tight-lipped, it's so secretive, it's a fraternity where you just can't, there's no news to be escaped unless they want to tell a Fabrizio Romano or a David Ornstein or a Paul Joyce of what is about to develop. There isn't much details to go around, and I think that in itself is something that is very commendable, and that also has to be appreciated if you are a Liverpool fan. But this transfer window for Liverpool is something that we're going to talk about for a while. If they make the signing that I think that they're about to make with Alexander Isak, can you imagine you bought Florian Wirtz for 116 and about to shell out another 130 mil for Alexander Isak? 250 million for two players? That is crazy. But you understand why. Because, of course, Salah is on the decline and he won't be doing this forever. So rather than get a player who replaces Salah for not only creativity but goals, you get two players that are able to create and at will if needs be. That is also super important. So I think we have to really commend the strategies being done by Liverpool in getting players like this, in getting transfers done like this. And there are probably a few more transfers that could shock us, incoming and outgoing, that we haven't thought about. But guys, let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree, like this video. You can share it with your friends, your family, comment, and also subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and be a part of the journey. Hit that notification bell for new videos I'll be uploading. But until next time, guys, peace.